Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Hunted by Sarah Biglow and Molly Zenk, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Edith, 1918. Today should have been my wedding day. Instead, I intended to die. The heels of my white shoes sank into the unstable sand of the riverbank as I inched closer to the water. The muck pulled at my wedding dress, but dirt was the last thing I cared about in this moment. I needed to keep walking. If I kept walking, I'd join Daniel soon. We could be together forever as planned instead of separated by war and now death. "I'm coming, Daniel," I whispered. "I'm coming." I waded waist high into the water. The rocks stuffed in my pockets shifted, weighing me down. I found it hard to move, each step an effort. Still, I pressed forward. I was neck deep, the cold water lapping at my pinned black hair, when I heard him. Not Daniel. Oh, how I wish I could hear his voice one last time. But Mr. Hartsong. "I would not take one step further if I were you, Miss Dorset." I turned my head toward the sound of his voice. He was standing on the riverbank where, not just before, there was no one. They did not surprise me. Vampires could outrun an automobile if they felt the need, which begged the question, why did he feel the need to come? Mr. Hartsong and I met at a VHA, Vampire Human Alliance meeting in 14. We campaigned for vampire rights, including the vote. He saw in me a schoolteacher who wished to do good outside the classroom. For me, he was like the father I never had, considering my own past before I was born. I'd heard rumors my whole soon-to-be-over life that mother invented a father for me to avoid the stain of illegitimacy, but I never pressed. Mother never answered what mother did not wish to. "Do not take another step, Miss Dorset," Mr. Hartsong repeated when I dragged my right foot forward. "Why?" Water lapped into my mouth. I spat it out before continuing. I want to join Daniel. This is the only way." He clucked his tongue. His clothes were a little tattered around the knees and elbows, like something out of the poorhouse in a Dickens novel. Had he been alive that long? Or longer? "Daniel would want you happy, my dear." His voice held a hypnotic lilt. I recognized it as a glamour. He was trying to get me to do what he wanted instead of what I wanted. "Goodbye, Mr. Hartsong." I took a deep breath out of habit before disappearing under the water. Present day, 2018. The place between wake and sleep was where memories of Daniel always hid. For just a second, right before I opened my eyes, I saw him. It was like he never passed, and I never became what I am today. Vampire was a dirty word nowadays. It was a pity they still regarded us as second-class citizens, or worse, monsters, after how much we fought for vampire rights with the VHA in the early 19-teens and 1960s. I sat up in bed, listening to the commotion in the kitchen of our small two-bedroom apartment off of Institute grounds. Most Klan members lived on campus, but I wanted my adopted daughters, Hope and Angel, to live as normal of a life as possible. That meant mixing with demons. The best way to achieve that was to not live on campus. We had our own rooms there for recruitment weekends and visits, but our main residence was our little apartment on 6th Street, 4 blocks from the rest of the Klan. "Back off, Hope. It's my turn to mix the tea. Mama E lets me do it every weekend." "I'd rather stake myself than drink any of that watered-down garbage you call tea," Hope snapped. "Fine by me," Angel said. "I'll find you something sharp. Here, use my knife." I smiled. Despite being named after such a gentle creature, Angel stuck up for herself with the fire of a devil. Her fiery determination helped her survive a Khmer rogue labor camp. Yes, she and Hope were both close to death, but that's where I came in. Mr. Hartsong said after being turned, "We vampires always know who needs us most." Just like he knew I needed him to show me the good I could do if given near infinite time, I did the same for two young sisters caught in the Khmer Rouge reign of terror in Cambodia. Their names in their native language were Senkum and Tevta. Once we moved back to America, we anglicized their names to Angel and Hope. I still sometimes use their Khmer names so they wouldn't forget their past, but even the girls preferred fitting in with American names. It only took a single bite along with a single yes to turn someone. I preferred to think of this life as a chance to help. Not all vampire clans had such altruistic goals. I dressed in a style many now call vintage before joining Angel and Hope in the kitchen. They made my favorite Earl Grey tea with 3 spoonfuls of government-subsidized blood per cup for taste. The Red Cross Blood Assistance Program of 36 made it so much easier to live a quality life. We put up flyers all around school for the recruitment fair. Hope nibbled on her piece of wheat toast spread with blood. I still liked to pretend it was strawberry jam. It allowed me to hold on to a piece of my former humanity. I bet we're going to get a big crowd. Don't call it a recruitment fair, Angel smacked her sister's arm. It's a live-action role-play convention. Yeah, that we'll find future vamps at, Hope countered. I only half listened to their bickering. Even though child vampires age till they're 18, the girls sometimes still acted like the 8 and 10-year-old children I first knew them as. I don't help in that matter. We've lived together for over 40 years, but I still thought of them as little girls. Mama E, what's wrong? Hope was the first to notice my quiet mood. I shook my head. Nothing, only thinking. It's the anniversary of when Mr. Hartsong turned me. I'm always a little quiet when thinking back, that's all. Why doesn't Mr. Hartsong come around much anymore? Angel drank straight from the bank bag like a toddler sucking applesauce from a pouch. I needed to be careful in choosing my words. The real reason my vampire sire didn't come around much was because he didn't agree with my unwillingness to turn humans. I'd recruit, I'd teach them about vampire life, but I needed a good reason to turn someone. We only had 7 offerings. Once the recruit accepted those offerings, once we turned 7 humans, we died. I only offered this life to 2 people in my 100 years as a vampire. They were both sitting across the table from me. Our numbers were dwindling since the hunters declared their plan to eradicate all vampires, but that didn't mean I wanted to hurry through my offerings. Mr. Hartsong didn't agree with me. It was the first time in over 100 years we hadn't seen eye to eye. Mr. Hartsong is far too busy with recruitment events to stop by as much as he used to, I lied. Perhaps you'll see him today. The girls perked up at the thought of seeing their grandsire at the LARP convention. We'd set up a booth at every convention we could find over the last 5 years. We called the supposed role-play Vampires versus Humans. If participants signed up under the vampire category, we knew they were interested in this life and invited them to the Vampire Institute. After experiencing and learning our way of life, which they thought was just the LARP in action, we gave all participants an offer. We glamored those who did not accept. We didn't need them leading the hunters right to our front door. After finishing breakfast, we took the subway to the convention center. I preferred living in a city with good public transport. I was from an age when ladies did not drive automobiles. I never learned how. Parker Morgan, a young vampire who attended the girls' school, was already setting up our booth when we arrived. His sire turned him in the 1950s, so he still retained most of the clean-cut good looks that were popular with young men back then. His love for sweater vests, button-down shirts, and slacks got him teased at school. "Parker!" Hope bounced up and down on her toes and waved when she caught sight of him. "He's so dreamy, don't you think?" she whispered to Angel. "Yeah, as in he'll only go out with you in your dreams," Angel said. Some rumors are true, you know. Hope scowled. Says who? Angel rolled her eyes. Says everyone. Duh. Parker smiled and waved back at us as he unfurled the Vampires vs. Humans banner to attract potential recruits. Good morning, ladies. Who's ready to LARP? Hope giggled as if Parker was the most fascinating thing ever uttered. I remembered when I used to giggle the same way around Daniel. I hoped she did not experience the same level of heartache I did. Both girls' attention shifted from Parker to a new young man with mocha-colored skin and brown hair with dyed blonde tips. He sat down at our booth as if he belonged among us vampires. I could tell from the pounding pulse point in his neck that his heart still very much beat. What were the girls up to? Angel, Hope, a moment, please. I motioned at them to follow me away from the growing crowds to a quiet spot next to a wall. What is it, Mama E? Hope's eyes were wide and oh so innocent. I sighed. She didn't know what she did or why it could pose a problem. Did you invite the human boy to help recruit? Do you even realize how dangerous that is? As far as anyone knows, we're role-playing vampires. We need to keep it that way. The hunters... I shook my head to scatter thoughts of what I'd seen vampire hunters do to our kind. The hunters are relentless in murdering all vampires. You know that. We've discussed it. Why is that human boy at the recruitment table? His name is Caden. Angel kept watch over the boy instead of looking at me. We go to school with him, Mama E. He's president of the Teen VHA. You can't have a vampire-human alliance without vampires, so... This was worse than I thought. You revealed your true nature to him? Hope rolled her eyes. Why is that a problem, Mama E? You were in the VHA? Yes, but that was before Mr. Hartsong turned me, I reminded them. Saying I'm a vampire in a public group is practically an invitation to the hunters. Are you trying to get yourself staked? We can trust Caden, Angel said. He's never given us a reason not to, Hope added. Do you trust him with your lives? I pressed. That's the level you must commit to when you reveal your true nature to humans. Do you trust him with your lives, girls? Both girls crossed the area where their hearts used to beat. With our lives, they said in unison. I observed Caden and Parker's interactions at the booth. They were at ease, friendly even with each other. The younger generation never seemed to have the same cares and worries we did. If the girls trusted him, perhaps I should too. At the least, I should give him the benefit of the doubt. Does Parker know you told him? I asked. Parker revealed himself too, Hope admitted. Look at it this way, Mama E. Caden knew there would be at least 3 vampires at the convention and came to help anyway. He trusts us, so why can't we trust him? Very well, I sighed. He needs to earn my trust, but I will try since you two think so highly of him. We do. Angel tiptoed to kiss my cheek. You'll see, Mama E. You'll like him as much as we do. The girl skipped back to the booth. I followed at a slower pace. When I joined the VHA in 1914, there was much less civil unrest between humans and vampires. It was safe to say in public you were a vampire. Vampires wanted the vote and to be treated with kindness and understanding. It drew me to their cause. I needed a purpose beyond the life my mother planned out for me. I found it in the VHA and, later, with this near immortality. I breathed a prayer that Hope and Angel would find the same purpose in the VHA as I did. You okay, Mama E? Hope asked after noticing my reflective mood. I smiled. Just thinking, Sangam. Just thinking. Our morning had seen a handful of people sign up for the human side. We had yet to gain our first potential vampire player. That was until a young man who was Parker's physical age stopped in front of our booth in the late afternoon. He grinned before sweeping his blonde curly hair away from his eyes. He wore ripped jeans and a t-shirt for a band I'd never heard of. At least I think it's a band. Hope and Angel complained I knew nothing about music on anything newer than a phonograph record. Caden approached him and they exchanged some strange handshake. Dan the man, you made it, Cadence said. He smiled, brushing his hair away from his eyes again. Sorry I'm late. I hope I didn't miss the good stuff. Nah, we're still taking sign-ups. The young man Caden called Dan looked to the girls and gave them a brief wave. His attention lingered longer on Parker, who busied himself making our remaining brochures into neat rows. Vampires versus humans, Dan read our booth sign. So, like, do you reenact the vampire-human war, or is it more casual? Day-to-day can be just as engrossing as pretending to fight a war. I slid a brochure across the table to make us look authentic. What side are you interested in, human or vampire? Another glance at Parker. Oh, totally vampire, he said. Sometimes I feel like I don't fit in, you know. It would be nice to be someone different for a while. We understand. Angel held out the sign-up clipboard. You could be our first vampire recruit of the day, Dan. Sounds cool, right, Dan? Hope added. We'd get to spend the whole weekend together in the Institute. As long as you have permission from a parent or guardian, you'd join us at the Institute for the weekend, I corrected. We provide transportation to and from the convention center. Before Dan responded, he pulled a cellular phone from his pocket and tapped the screen a few times. Yeah, that whole permission thing is not a problem, he mumbled in response. What are you playing this weekend, Parker? Parker looked up and smiled. I didn't recall seeing him quite this shy during events before. Vampire. We could be roommates if you sign up for our side. Dan scribbled his name on the first line under the vampire heading. Number 1. Do I win a prize or something? You get to hang with us for the whole weekend, Hope said. What more of a prize do you need? I smiled at the girls' recruitment efforts before I glanced down at the sign-up sheet to check our young recruit's full name. Dan Paxton. I gasped. The words blurred, and it felt like the room was tipping. Dan Paxton. He had the same name as my Daniel.